Duke, Illinois, Madison Square Garden. Let's go.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Illini. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Simple reminder, we're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Sunny Verma. You can find me at IlliniCast or you can find me at the Sunny V. I always appreciate your feedback on Twitter, X, whatever you'd like to call it. Or just right here in the chat session. Let me know if there's a particular topic that you'd like to be discussed. If you'd like to support the channel, it's easy. Just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It costs you guys nothing, but it helps this channel grow immensely. We got a fun one for you today. The date for the Duke and Illinois clash was finally announced on Wednesday. So we're going to talk about how important of a game that may end up being in February. And also, we're going to continue our team preview series as the football season is right around the corner. This time, we're going to be talking about the Michigan State Spartans. First and foremost, let's go ahead and just talk about Duke and Illinois. The last time Illinois played Duke, it was in Cameron Indoor Stadium, and Ayo Dosunmu was the best player on the court. And Illinois came out with an 83-68 victory. And quite honestly, the game wasn't even that close. It was a purely dominant win on the Illini side. And obviously, we're going to be hoping that the same thing will hold true this upcoming season. It was announced on Wednesday by the Illinois men's basketball social media team that the game will take place on February 22nd. This game is going to be on national TV. This game is going to be on Fox. And there are a million reasons for why. You're talking about Cooper Flagg. You're talking about Kasparas Jakucionis. But it's not just those two. You're not just talking about two of the prominent freshmen in the country. No, that game on February 22nd, that might have 5 NBA first-rounders on the court at one time. We know Cooper Flagg. We know Kasparas. We know Will Riley. But Duke also has center Kaman Maluak and shooting guard / small forward Khan Nupel. So that's 5 guys between the two teams that are going to be on that court that could be playing in the NBA as soon as the following season. And sure, that's a lot of talent on the court, but being able to catch Cooper Flagg in Madison Square Garden, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be reaching out to the lockdown people and see if I can get a credential for that game. Madison Square Garden is one of those stadiums that I've never been able to attend a game at yet. And to be able to watch Cooper Flagg in what's going to be one of his first games, if not the first game, I haven't checked if he's played there before. I think that's going to be one of the most highly rated television games in the upcoming college basketball season. You're talking about 2 rabid fan bases in the Duke Blue Devils and the Illinois Fighting Illini. But you also take a look at the circumstances of the game. You're talking about a February 22nd matchup, a matchup where, yeah, there's a lot of young talent on the court on both sides, but at that point, most of the season will have been complete. That young talent will have caught up to the speed of what college basketball feels like. You're going to see both teams, hopefully, obviously, we're hoping there's no sort of injury that bothers one team or the other. You're going to be looking at 2 teams, 2 potentially top 15 teams in the country, if not higher, at their peak powers. The freshman nervousness, that should be gone by now. And you're talking about the most famous arena in the entire world on national TV. And I'm telling you, this game is going to be extremely important for the Illini. People don't like it when I say that. I do feel like this fan base sometimes has some sort of little brother mentality where we keep trying to prop ourselves up into maybe a class that we don't quite yet have the results to belong to. But games like this can put us in that class. Illinois is a team that a lot of people are talking about right now. Whether it's that Elite Eight run we made last year, Terrence Shannon, Marcus Damask, two of the best players in college basketball last year. Obviously, the recruiting classes that Brad Underwood has brought in. I read that if Kasparas and Will Riley were ranked by all the ranking services in 2024, we would have the second or third best recruiting class in the entire country next year. We're being noticed. But you know what's another way to really get noticed? Is to beat Duke on national TV in Madison Square Garden. Cooper Flagg, at this point, despite being a freshman, is already many people's favorite to be the college basketball player of the year next year. We haven't had a prospect like him since, Wembyana a couple seasons back. But still, Cooper is a surefire one-and-done, multiple all-star in the NBA, and that's his baseline. At his peak, you're talking about a guy who might just be the best player in the NBA in 4 to 5 years. So how's Kasparas going to take on that matchup? Here's a chance for Will Riley to shine. The attention is going to be on Cooper Flagg. At that point, if you're talking about late February, the nation will have caught on to Kasparas the way Illinois fans already seemingly have before he's even stepped a foot on the court. Will our young guys be ready? What kind of season will we be having at that point? Is this a typical Brad Underwood season where we struggle in the beginning, but then we get better once Big Ten season hits? Or is it going to be one of those years where the chemistry just didn't work out? Either way, more college basketball teams need to do this, having big, prominent, nationally televised games in the second half of the season. It can only be good for the sport. And watching Illinois in Madison Square Garden, give me that every single time. GameTime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And to continue our Big Ten preview series, next up we have Michigan State, which I was able to record about a week and a half ago. The Spartans are a team that's going to be really interesting to watch this upcoming year because obviously they have the brand new head coach who brings in a star quarterback, and they're a team who many project to finish at the bottom of the Big Ten. And so whether we like it or not, that's a team that Illinois in their October matchup is going to have to beat in order to eventually have a successful season. So I had a lot of fun in this interview, and I hope you guys will enjoy.
Folks, this weekend, 4 weeks until kickoff, but 16 weeks until a very important game for both of these teams. What's up, everyone? It's Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans. Over there, Sunny Verma of Locked On Illini. And yes, look, Sunny, just like I was saying off camera, Spartans versus Illini to the outsider. Sure, let's be honest here. That could lack some sex appeal, especially for this year's matchup. I'm not sure if this is going to get a lot of eyeballs from outside. But, man, look, both teams will be coming off a bye for this game. Illinois' over-under is 5.5. Michigan State's isn't much better. It's 4.5, actually. K-Ford Rankings gives this game a 55% Illinois lean. It might be a nasty one, but, hey, for two teams that could use a November win to get into bowl eligibility, Sunny, grill me about my Spartans. We haven't had anything going on this offseason, so surely you have no questions or anything, right?
I've got a couple for you, Matt. Quick question. Let's just start right off the bat. Jonathan Smith, a very impressive resume compared to the previous stops that he's had and the results he's been able to accumulate. What were your initial impressions when he was the guy that Michigan State zeroed in on and the next head coach of the Spartans?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I've loved it from the beginning too. That was a guy that, he was at the top of my list, but I didn't think it was actually going to happen because of all the turmoil going on at Oregon State. Part of me thought that, okay, he's going to stick it out with his former team, the school that he's just rebuilt. This is a tumultuous time. Maybe he sticks around there. Okay. But then money talks, and the opportunity of being in the Power Four and not outside of the Power Four was just too much for him to turn down. So he was at the top of my list, right behind the pipe dream of Urban Meyer. But, once I came out of my fog and realized the reality of the world, I thought, you know what? This is probably the best guy that we could possibly get because just like you said, Sonny, his track record speaks for everything. He took over an Oregon State team that was, oh, God, me, you, and the first 9 listeners of this show, we probably could have beat Oregon State, the team that he took over. And he took a little bit of time, 3 years before they really got the gears turning, but he knows how to rebuild a program. He'll have more resources here than he did in Corvallis. So I loved it just because he has shown the blueprint and he is already talking the talk about physical football, establishing the run, pound green pound, just everything that us State fans want to hear. We're getting back to our blue collar roots, kind of harkening back to the days of Mark D'Antonio. The good years, not the bad years, Mark D'Antonio, but I love the hire just right out of the chute.
So before we talk about some of the actual units on the team, Michigan State, I would argue, is probably one of the teams happier with this new version of the Big Ten now that these divisions are gone and that you're not going to be forced to play some of these powerhouses every single year. I mean, just tell me your thoughts on that whole thing.
Point blank, you've nailed it. Yeah, I'm sick of playing Ohio State every single year, and then we still get Michigan. That's a protected rivalry. Sure, fine, whatever. And then getting Penn State off the books helps too. Now, this year's still going to be a tough schedule. Our October is Ohio State. 6 days later, we play Friday night at Oregon, then a nice little bye week, and then Iowa, and then Michigan. So still a very tough schedule for Michigan State Spartans, but September is manageable. November, should the team still be alive, is manageable. So that's all to say. I'm just thrilled to get some teams off the books here and start opening up these divisions. Yes, you got to play Oregon every once in a while. Sure, USC is on there, but I'm just so sick of losing. You want a fun stat? It's actually not fun at all. Do you want a fun stat?
Let's hear it.
The last 4 years against Ohio State, the average score was 37-4 at halftime. No. That's how bad. That's how sick I am of seeing the Buckeyes. So yeah, done with the divisions. I know we see them this year, but I like them once every 3 years now, not every single year. So yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so we talked about Jonathan Smith being in his first year. The over under 4.5. From the looks of it, sounds like it's going to be still a pretty difficult schedule. What are the expectations for the Spartans next season?
Yeah, I know it's kind of crazy going 2 whole games over a Vegas over under, or even you look at S&P Plus or the K Ford rankings, they're also in the 4-ish range too. But I'm seeing 6 wins. I'm seeing 7 wins. Yes, I did talk about October. That is a very tough stretch. But September, okay, not too shabby. Florida Atlantic, Prairie View, A&M, and then a road game to Boston College are your non-conference games. You get Maryland on the road too. That's not going to be an easy game. So I'm not leaning win there. Let's not get it twisted. But still, it's not a road trip to Happy Valley, for example. And then November, it's Indiana, it's Illinois, it's Purdue, and then it's Rutgers. So should the team be healthy? I know that there was a lot of roster turnover, but we also inherited a lot of great players, whether it's from Oregon State, whether it's from elsewhere. With a competent coaching staff, I feel like 6 wins isn't just gettable, but almost an expectation, with the asterisk of should this team stay healthy, because depth, that's kind of been a concern on my end over here. I mean, the listeners are split on the whole depth discussion, but I'll let that be for the future talk. Yeah.
Well, let's make that future talk current talk.
Okay.
I saw that you guys lost on the defensive side 3 of your top players. How do you replace that?
The defensive line was tough because, Derek Harmon, Simeon Barrow, they both dip into the transfer portal in the winter. And then would you look at that? They got him back. It was great for another month and a half. And then they went back into the portal and they got another payday elsewhere. So you're replacing 2 really strong defensive linemen. They have good defensive linemen at the starting spot. Maverick Hansen, who has been here since the Mark D'Antonio days. And no, that's not a joke. That is legitimate. He's the only Mark D'Antonio recruit still standing here. And then Daquan Dowse, who's a strong transfer from Georgia Tech. Behind him, though, It's either veteran players that really haven't shown much and have already hit their ceiling elsewhere from the transfer portal, or young guys that are unproven, some coming off injuries. So it's really a grab bag as far as depth goes there behind the starters on the defensive line. Now, the third guy, I believe Jaden Mangum is who you would be referring to. He went to Michigan. That was a safety that, well, obviously went to the rival. That's not fun at all. I will say this. This is the deepest our secondary has been in quite some time. Our safety room, still fine. Malik Spencer, Dylan Tatum, those are two solid returners. They got Nikai Martinez. He started every game for UCF last year. And then the cornerbacks, look, we had a really strong true freshman, Chance Rucker, last year. He's back for a sophomore season. They plucked Ed Woods out of Arizona State. He rated as the top 10 cornerback in Pro Football Focus. So I know I'm not going to, kid anyone here. The bar was also on the floor for secondary talent the last few years. Like, it has been not good, but finally we have experience, and they did a really good job in the transfer portal of getting guys to just add depth and starting talent to that room too. So it's like, hey, yeah, it wasn't great to lose those players, but for the secondary, it wasn't as bad as it seems. And for the defensive tackle, it's like, you know what, maybe that was pretty bad.
Well, someone who I think you guys are hoping is not going to be bad, let's switch to the offensive side. Yeah. And obviously the spotlight is going to be on Aiden Childs. He's coming with Jonathan Smith. Give us a preview of what to expect with him.
Yeah, my mental health relies on that 18-year-old's hands right there. And that's the thing. He is young. He's a true sophomore, but he is still just 18 years old. He did play in spots last year for Oregon State, so we got a limited window of what he can do. But what you see, you kind of see why that 24/7 Sports at one point had him rated the number one transfer quarterback. I think he eventually was the number 2, but nevertheless, solid kid. One of the first things that you see in the highlight film is a 20-yard line to 20-yard line throw. He has live legs. I mean, he just has some zip on the ball. It's everything physically that you want out of a quarterback. And what we like about it, too, it's not your typical transfer quarterback situation where, okay, he's got to learn new coaching staff, new system. He's got to learn new receivers and everything. He's coming over with that coaching staff, that offensive coordinator. They brought over the top tight end pass catcher in the country last year. As far as touchdown catches go, I should have worded that differently. Jack Velling, his teammate over at Oregon State, he's here too. So, yes, he's got to build chemistry with the other receivers and running backs, but he's got a really nice security blanket right off the top there. So, I know that the coach, Jonathan Smith, is saying, let's keep our expectations like somewhat reasonable here. Again, he hasn't started a game yet. He's still 18 years old, but, oh, man. Try watching a minute of the highlight tape and seeing what we had here at quarterback last year and not getting excited for the future here. I'm excited to smile again because, Sunny, we scored 15 points a game last year. Like, even if we're losing this year, at least it'll be exciting. Like, God, it was just so bad.
Well, before we wrap up, real quick, Matt, a couple of the other game breakers on offense.
Nate Carter, who you started every game last year at running back, but man, was it hard for him to find the end zone. He went the last 10 games without scoring a touchdown, but the offensive line wasn't like necessarily the greatest. Now, he came from UConn. That year at UConn, he played a short season, just 4 games, but he led the nation in those 4 games in yards after contact. Just look at a picture of him, and you could probably figure out yourself that, like, okay, he probably still has that somewhere in him. I know last season didn't go well. He's getting popped behind the line of scrimmage more times than not, but I like Nate Carter a lot. Montorie Foster, he's the leading receiver. You may or may not already know about him. Just a 6'1" receiver, just a really surefire guy to be a starting receiver for Michigan State. But I do want to throw this out. Nick Marsh, top 150 recruit out of Detroit, 6'4". The word out of camp right now is that Montorie Foster actually said this, that he is, quote, special. So you don't want to throw a lot of expectations on young kids, but we're throwing expectations on young kids. Nick Marsh could also, certainly boost my mental health this upcoming fall. So that's who to keep an eye on.
Sounds good, Matt. Again, at least on the football field, I got no ill feelings towards the Spartans, so I wish you luck in every game except for the one that we face off in.
Yeah, you too. This was fun. Probably different discussion for probably a lot of screaming during basketball season, but this was cordial. This was nice. I appreciated this. All right, folks. Again, Matt Sheehan, Locked On Spartans over there. Sunny Verma of Locked On Illini. Until next time, hey, take care of yourselves the rest of the week. Love you all. Go green. And what do you guys say over in Illini country? Is it like I-L-I-N-I? Like I-L. There you go. Nailed it. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, guys.
Thank you for making Locked On Illini your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On College Football Podcast. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron, with discussion on the upcoming season and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And that about wraps it up for today's episode of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, if you'd like to support the channel, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps us immensely. And it costs you guys absolutely nothing. We're going to continue our Big Ten preview series next week as the season gets so close. Tell me, are you guys excited about the upcoming football season? Are you guys nervous? Are you guys not excited? There's a big Twitter discussion going on about what being a true fan of Illinois football is, and I'm curious on your guys' feedback and if you guys want me to talk about it. What about this Duke versus Illinois game? Let me know your thoughts on it. Cooper Flagg, Kasparas, Will Riley. Are you going to the game? Am I seeing you at the game? Will I be seeing you guys at a different game? Please let me know. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you next time. ILL, love you guys.